All right, welcome everyone, and thank you for coming to today's discussion on La Chose Franco-Arabe, Exploring Centuries of Franco-Arab Relations, with Professor Henri Laurence from the Collège de France, and moderated by our very own Professor Nadine Muller, and translation by Zineb Shreibi. My name is Yves Zuckerman, and I am the president of the University of Chicago French Club. This event is part of the Marianne Midwest Speaker Series, which brings in prominent speakers from France to engage simultaneously with live audiences in Chicago and remote audiences across the Midwest. And this is a partnership of the France Chicago Center here on campus, the University of Chicago French Club, the Cultural Services of the French Embassy, and the Alliance Française of Chicago. And so with us today, we welcome viewers from Minneapolis, Cincinnati, Kansas City, and Milwaukee. Yeah, Kansas City, Milwaukee, Cincinnati, and Minneapolis, exactly. So bienvenue à vous. We would also like to thank our partners for today's event, the International House Global Voices Program for hosting us, the Center for Middle Eastern Studies, and Maroon TV for the live streaming. Almost a year ago now, for those who have been following us since the beginning, we started this series with a talk on the burqa ban, featuring prominent French politician and feminist Fadela Amara. And so today we ask, how did we get there? What is the special relationship between France and the Arab world? And so to help us answer this question, we have Professor Henri Laurence, who is one of France's foremost experts on the Middle East, and an addict, he says, a writing addict, and author of several reference works on the topic. He earned his degree and doctorate, specializing in Arabic literature, at the National Institute of Oriental Languages and Civilizations in Paris, and today he is the professor and chair of history of the contemporary Arab world at the Collège de France. Following his presentation, translated by Zineb Shreibi, we will have a Q&A moderated by Professor Nadine Muller. Professor Muller is an assistant professor of Egyptian archaeology at the Oriental Institute. She received her PhD from the University of Cambridge in 2004, followed by a fellowship at the University of Oxford. The talk will be followed by a reception, where we hope you will continue the fascinating discussion initiated by our speakers. So please join me in welcoming Professors Henri Laurence and Nadine Muller.
Bien, je vous remercie. Le mot « chose franco-arabe » avait été inventé par le grand orientaliste et arabisant français Jacques Berck en 1956, lors de la crise de Suez.
I thank you for welcoming me. The expression, the Franco-Arab thing, was coined by Jacques Berck, who was an Arabist, during the Suez crisis in 1956.
Il était incapable d'en donner une définition, mais il insistait sur sa nature culturelle.
While he was not able to give it a definition, he insisted on its cultural dimension.
La première fois que l'on trouve le mot franco-arabe, c'est en 1798 dans un article du grand orientaliste et philosophe français Volney.
The first time we hear the expression, the word, is in an article by the great philosopher and Arabist Volney.
Il s'agissait d'expliquer la raison de l'expédition d'Égypte de Bonaparte.
It was a way to explain the Egypt expedition of Bonaparte.
Et il parlait de la constitution d'une colonie franco-arabe en Égypte.
And he was referring to the making of a colony, a Franco-Arab colony in Egypt.
Quand on regarde le texte de Volney, on voit à la fois un projet politique, une colonie, mais en même temps l'application pour la première fois de l'idée de civilisation, c'est-à-dire de progrès vers un pays arabe.
When you look at Volney's text, you see the idea of a political project, so therefore a colony, but also the idea of civilization and with it, the notion of progress.
Par exemple, création d'écoles, de grands projets de développement, etc.
With the creation of schools and large development projects.
Ensuite, il faut passer à l'Égypte des années 1820-1840.
Then one must look at Egypt of the 1920s and 1940s.
18.
Oh, I'm sorry. 1820s and 1840s.
Dans l'époque du vice-roi d'Égypte, Mehmet Ali, qui s'entoure de conseillers français.
At the time of the Viceroy Mehmet Ali or Mohammed Ali, who surrounded himself with French advisors.
Et en particulier des gens du groupe dit des Saint-Simoniens.
And the people of a group called the Saint-Simonians.
Qui étaient les gens les plus modernes dans la société française de l'époque.
The most modern thinkers in French society at the time.
Et on peut dire que dans cette Égypte de Mehmet Ali, on a la préfiguration de ce qu'on appellera au XXe siècle une politique de coopération.
And in the Egypt of Mehmet Ali, we already have the seeds of what will later become cooperation.
Mais en même temps, pour d'autres raisons, la France se lance en 1830 dans la conquête de l'Algérie.
But at the same time, France, starting in 1830, begins its conquest of Algeria.
Et finalement, après les échecs politiques de la France en Europe en 1840,
and later, after the failure of its political projects in 1840 in Europe,
la France se lance dans les années 1840 dans une guerre de conquête extrêmement destructrice de la société algérienne.
So France in the 1840 then begins a war that is extremely destructive in Algeria.
Mais pendant qu'elle fait une politique destructive en Algérie, elle construit une nouvelle relation politique avec les chrétiens du Levant.
But while it is waging this destructive war and policy in Algeria, it is building a positive relationship with the Levant in Syria.
Les Christians.
The Christians of Syria.
En particulier les Maronites.
In particular, the Maronites.
Aussi, sous la période du Second Empire, l'empereur Napoléon III a eu le projet d'un double royaume arabe.
And during the Second Empire, Napoleon III had the project of an Arab kingdom.
Un royaume arabe en Algérie afin de protéger la société arabe de la destruction.
A Arab kingdom in Algeria to protect Arab society from destruction.
Il ne veut pas que les Arabes connaissent le sort des Indiens en Amérique.
Because he does not want the Algerians to know the same fate that the Native Americans were dealt in North America.
Il le dit explicitement.
And he said it explicitly.
Et en même temps, il a le projet d'un royaume arabe de Syrie.
And at the same time, he envisions an Arab kingdom of Syria.
Parce qu'il pense que la politique arabe doit couvrir l'ensemble du monde arabe, aussi bien dans la partie orientale que dans la partie occidentale du monde arabe.
Because he believes that an Arab policy should encompass a policy that involves the eastern and western part of the Arab world.
Cette double politique du royaume arabe va échouer.
This dual policy of the Arab kingdom will fail.
En 1881, la Troisième République, prétextant une menace islamiste, fait la conquête de la Tunisie.
Because in 1881, under the pretext of an Islamist threat, the French conquer Tunisia.
Mais au lieu de faire une annexion comme pour l'Algérie, on établit un protectorat.
But instead of annexing Tunisia, as the French did in Algeria, they, they establish a protectorate.
Autrement dit, la politique française va se trouver sur deux références essentielles.
In other words, French policy will be built on two references.
La première est celle de l'assimilation.
The first one is one of assimilation.
C'est celle qui est pratiquée en Algérie.
The one that is practiced or followed in Algeria.
Et la seconde est celle de l'association.
And the second one is one of association.
Qui est celle pratiquée en Tunisie.
The one followed in Tunisia.
Dans les mêmes années 1880, c'est la naissance de la francophonie dans le Levant.
At the same time, it is the emergence, the birth of Francophonia in the Levant.
C'est-à-dire toute la Méditerranée orientale.
All of the entire eastern part of the Mediterranean.
Et en particulier la Syrie et le Liban.
In particular, Syria and Lebanon.
Et dans le cadre de cette civilisation levantine,
and in the context of this Levantine civilization,
la France joue un très grand rôle dans la renaissance culturelle du monde arabe.
France plays a great role in the rebirth, the renaissance of the culture.
Et la France prend un tel orgueil qu'elle n'hésite pas à parler d'une France du Levant.
And it gives such pride to France that France does not hesitate to speak of a France of the Levant.
Même la droite catholique plutôt xénophobe salue cette France du Levant.
And even the Catholic right, which tends to be xenophobic, salutes this France of the Levant.
Parce qu'elle est chrétienne.
Because it is Christian.
La discussion sur l'assimilation et l'association reprend avec la conquête du Maroc.
And the conversation regarding assimilation versus association resumes with the conquest of Morocco.
Le maréchal Lyautey parle d'une politique des égards.
The Maréchal Lyautey talks of a policy of regards, respect.
Voire même de parcelles d'amour.
Oh, yes. Even partly love or partial love.
Dans cette conquête, la France tente de faire une colonisation à visage humain.
In this endeavor in Morocco, France attempts to practice colonization, humane colonization.
En dépit d'une longue guerre de pacification.
Despite a long war towards peace.
Pacification.
Or pacification.
It's il y a beaucoup de morts. Hein?
C'est vrai, c'est vrai. He said because there were a lot of dead during that process of pacification.
Durant la Première Guerre mondiale,
during the First World War,
la France veut élargir la France du Levant.
France wants to extend the France of the Levant.
Pour constituer une Syrie française.
To constitute, to build a French series.
Syria.
Pardon?
French Syria. Syria.
Ah, Syrie, oh là là. Oui, I'm sorry. A French Syria.
Tandis que les Anglais développent plutôt le projet d'un nationalisme arabe.
While the British are working on developing Arab nationalism.
Autour d'un projet qu'ils appellent l'Arabie.
Around a project that they call Arabia.
Aussi, la discussion entre le diplomate français Georges Picot
thus the discussion between the French diplomat Picot
et le britannique Sykes
and his British counterpart Sykes
était d'établir la frontière entre la Syrie et l'Arabie.
It was to establish a border between Syria and Arabia.
d'où ce qui donnera les fameux accords Sykes-Picot.
Which will lead to the famous agreement, the Sykes-Picot,
en 1916.
in 1960.
Cela va aboutir à la constitution du mandat français sur le Levant.
And this will lead to the constitution, the making of the French mandate over the Levant,
Qui sera une réussite administrative
which will be an administrative success,
et un échec politique.
but a political failure.
À partir de la Seconde Guerre mondiale, on entre dans la voie de la décolonisation.
After the Second World War, we then enter a phase of decolonization, the end of colonization.
Ce qui est un épisode douloureux,
Which was a painful episode,
en particulier la guerre d'Algérie.
in particular the war in Algeria.
Et De Gaulle aura le mérite de transformer l'inévitable en projet politique.
And De Gaulle will succeed in transforming the inevitable into a political success,
Qui se deviendra la politique de coopération.
which will then turn into the policy of cooperation.
Et ensuite, à partir de la fin des années 60, il va définir ce qu'on en appellera la politique arabe de la France.
And beginning in the 60s, he will then define what we call the Arab policy of France,
Qui au départ consiste à proposer aux pays arabes une solution autre que celle de l'Union soviétique et des États-Unis.
which at first consists in offering those nations a solution different than the one that might be offered by the USSR, the United States.
En même temps, la France découvre progressivement qu'elle a maintenant une population arabe sur son sol.
While France is discovering that it has an Arab population in its homeland.
Et va se reposer les questions d'assimilation.
And therefore, the questions of assimilation emerge once again.
Et là, évidemment, la question du communautarisme et du multiculturalisme.
And then, of course, with that comes the question regarding multiculturalism and the relationships between the communities.
Alors, en conclusion, parce que j'ai été très bref,
So to conclude, because I was very brief and concise,
l'histoire de la France depuis la Révolution française
the history of France since the French Revolution
doit se comprendre par rapport à deux dimensions.
must be understood in relationship to two dimensions,
La dimension arabe,
the Arab dimension,
parce que pratiquement tous les régimes politiques français depuis la Révolution ont agi sur le monde arabe.
because practically all French governments and regimes since the end of the French revolutions have acted in the Arab world,
D'aussi bien en Afrique qu'en Asie.
in Africa as well as Asia.
Et à l'autre dimension est la dimension allemande.
And the other dimension is the German dimension.
Et en fait, l'histoire de France sur 2 siècles est une alternance
And the history of France at that time is alternating
entre l'aspect allemand et l'aspect arabe.
between the Arab aspect, Arab dimension, and the German dimension.
Et dans la société française d'aujourd'hui,
And in today's French society,
les deux problèmes essentiels,
the two major problems
c'est la place de l'Europe,
is the place of Europe, the role of Europe,
et ça c'est la dimension allemande,
and that is the German dimension,
et la dimension et la place de l'islam,
and the place of Islam,
et ça c'est la dimension arabe.
and that is the Arab dimension.
Évidemment, il y a beaucoup de difficultés,
Of course, there are many difficulties,
mais aujourd'hui, il faut bien comprendre qu'il y a une part française dans l'identité arabe.
but today one must understand that there is a French part to the Arab identity
Et une part arabe dans l'identité française.
and an Arab part to French or in French identity.
Il faut combattre la folie des gens
One must combat the madness of people
qui, au nom de l'authenticité,
who, in the name of authenticity,
croient combattre l'autre
think they're fighting the other
alors qu'ils se combattent eux-mêmes.
while they're fighting themselves.
Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. Merci, vous avez fait des petites. Je m'excuse.
Thank you very much. And we have now quite a lot of time for discussion and questions. First of all, I've always been very intrigued by the French past or the French history, but I work in Egypt, so I've seen a lot of connections between France and Egypt. And one thing that always fascinated me, I know you didn't really mention this, but it was in your longer text. Napoleon III, he had this interesting view on history, and he was always comparing France and now of course I can't remember the English. The Romans who conquered France during the époque Gallo-Romaine. And how does that actually, he reflects on that a lot and compares it then to Algeria, right? Can you elaborate on this a little bit more?
Il a une proclamation au peuple algérien
He proclaimed to the Algerian people
que jadis les Romains ont apporté la civilisation aux Gaulois vaincus.
that back then the Romans brought civilization to the Gauls after they beat them, after they were vanquished.
Et que maintenant la France fait la même chose avec les Arabes d'Algérie.
And that now France is doing the same with the Arabs of Algeria.
Donc puisque les Français ont été heureux de la conquête romaine,
So since the French were happy about the Roman conquest,
les Arabes doivent être heureux de la conquête française.
the Arabs should be happy regarding the French conquest.
That's really an excellent discourse for the time. Yeah, first of all, do we have any questions from the audience? So far, I'm not really seeing many responses from our locations elsewhere in the Midwest. So why don't we start here with the discussion from the audience? Any points you would like to make and bring up? Yes.
How much did the proponents of this French project, because there was an idea of assimilation and from the French Revolution, the idea of reason, how much did this involve an idea of engaging with Islam in a liberal pluralist way as opposed to a project of transforming Islam in some way, analogous to the way Locke and the reasonableness of Christianity tried to transform Christianity so that Christianity would be based entirely on reason. What is this cultural or religious dimension of the project?
C'est toute la complexité de la politique française.
It's all of the complexities of the French policy.
Puisqu'en particulier dans l'Orient arabe,
Because in particular in the Arab Orient,
la politique française était d'abord orientée vers les chrétiens.
the French policy was first orientated towards the Christians.
Mais en même temps, la France devenait de plus en plus laïque.
But at the same time, French was becoming more and more secular.
Et donc les Français expliquaient aux autorités ottomanes
So the French were explaining to the Ottoman authorities
que, puisqu'ils étaient laïcs,
that since they were secular,
ils pouvaient modérer les religieux français.
that they could keep the French religious segment of society moderate.
Et au début du XXe siècle, à côté des missions catholiques,
And at the beginning of the 20th century, in parallel with the Catholic missions,
on a créé la mission laïque
the secular mission was created
pour établir des écoles.
to establish schools.
Il faut bien comprendre que vers 1900,
One must understand that around the 1900s,
la France contrôle la majorité des écoles secondaires dans l'Orient arabe.
France controls most of the high school or secondary education schools in the Orient.
L'enseignement d'État est beaucoup plus faible que l'enseignement français, en nombre et en qualité.
L'enseignement d'État?
L'enseignement d'État ottoman.
Okay, so the schooling that was under the influence of the Ottoman Empire was far smaller compared to the one that was under French influence.
Et le français était la deuxième langue de l'Empire ottoman, la deuxième langue officielle de l'Empire ottoman.
And French was the second official language of the Ottoman Empire.
Et une partie de l'administration ottomane fonctionnait en français.
And a part of the Ottoman administration functioned in France, in French.
Merci. J'essaie de poser la question en français. Je me demande s'il y a un rôle spécial pour la France dans les événements actuels en Syrie, parce que, vu l'histoire et les liens étroits avec des pays, on pourrait imaginer qu'il y aurait une influence spéciale sur les rebelles qu'on est censé soutenir à l'Occident pour qu'ils adoptent une perspective plus élargie, plus pluraliste. Mais on est un peu triste de constater que la guerre se poursuit et que rien ne change fondamentalement et personne ne fait rien. Enfin, je suis vraiment déçu, pas seulement avec la France, mais globalement. Merci.
Should we have a quick translation? Would you like to translate that question so everybody?
Oh, should I? Well, given, I'm sorry, it's going to have to be a summary. I didn't realize, all of a sudden I forgot that I was translating because I'm listening to the gentleman speak French.
I can jump in a little bit as well.
Basically, given the tight relationship that between Syria and the historical precedent between Syria and France, the gentleman was saying that he's disappointed to see that France, but also the other Western powers seem to not have been able to help the rebels in Syria. And I'm sorry if I'm missing.
Yeah, I mean,
some of
I think that's very
gist
much
of
the
it?
question in terms of should France play a role in what's going on, for example, in Syria right now. And I think that's a very up-to-date question. And I think we could even take this further and say, should France play a role in what's been happening with the Arab Spring? Do you think there should be some interaction, or if yes, what kind of interaction?
Je voudrais quand même répondre à la question en partie.
I'm going to partly answer the question.
L'essentiel de la politique française
The majority of the French policy
depuis la Seconde Guerre mondiale
since World War II
est d'essayer de protéger le Liban
is to try to protect Lebanon
par rapport à Israël et par rapport à la Syrie.
In regards to Israel, or in the face of Israel and to Syria.
Donc l'idée essentielle, c'est que c'est le Liban d'abord.
So the essential idea is that it is Lebanon first.
Bon, l'année dernière, nous étions prêts à intervenir avec les États-Unis,
Last year, we were ready to intervene with the United States,
mais ce sont les États-Unis qui, au dernier moment, n'ont pas bougé.
but it was the United States that at the last minute did not make a move.
Alors, sur le printemps arabe, le Arab Spring, sur le printemps arabe, les Français ont été surpris comme tout le monde.
Regarding the Arab Spring, the French were surprised just like everybody else was.
Le gouvernement français était compromis, comme les autres gouvernements occidentaux, avec les régimes arabes.
The French government, just as its Western counterparts, has been embedded, has compromised itself with the Arab regimes.
Donc, il a fallu changer d'urgence de politique.
So there was an urgency in changing policy.
Et c'était le sens de l'intervention militaire en Libye.
And that was the meaning behind the military intervention in Libya.
Okay, then we have another question lined up.
I'm Nicole Jordan from the University of Illinois. I'll ask in English so the audience can understand us. I have one comment on your comment just now. France has performed the very valuable service of identifying some of the gases used by the Assad regime in Syria at the time that the American administration did not proceed with the consequences of that verification. But those of us who watch international politics, I think, were impressed by the role of the Quai d'Orsay and other bodies in French government in working on this poison gas issue. My question is the following. I listen religiously to France Culture, and I just heard a very heated discussion between Alain Finkielkraut, whose views on the loss of the traditional French educational system you will know, and one of your colleagues at the Sorbonne, a very distinguished medievalist who's been responsible for revision of the French high school curriculum on the role of Islam and the Arabs in world history. This Sorbonne professor has worked on this question of global history as it's taught in France. He maintained that the whole thrust of modernization in the Middle Ages came from the Arab world towards Europe. This was disputed by Finkielkraut. Pierre Nora was also present in this discussion. I wondered if you care to comment on Finkielkraut's reply that the French educational curriculum is being redesigned to stress the role of the Islamic population in France as a political imperative rather than a cultural one and historical one. I don't agree with Finkielkraut's line, I hasten to say, but I would like to have your response as an expert. Thank you.
Bon, on peut dire que M. Finkielkraut est un esprit plutôt réactionnaire.
So we can say that Mr. Finkielkraut has a reactionary mind and spirit.
Pour revenir à une partie de la question,
To go back to part of the question,
les philosophes des Lumières
the philosophers of the Enlightenment
ont tous insisté sur le rôle des Arabes et des musulmans dans la production des sciences.
Have all stressed the role of the Muslims and the Arab in the progress, in scientific progress.
Par exemple, si vous ouvrez l'encyclopédie de Diderot et d'Alembert,
So if you look at the Encyclopedia of Diderot and Alembert,
à chaque article scientifique,
all scientific articles
il y a un passage sur les Arabes.
contain a paragraph on Arabs.
Alors, l'autre partie de la question
The other part of the question
est ce qu'on pourrait appeler le roman national.
is what one can call the national novel.
c'est-à-dire le récit que chaque pays se donne de sa propre histoire.
Which is to say the narrative that each country gives of its own history.
Et du fait qu'aujourd'hui la population française s'est modifiée,
And due to the fact that the French population has evolved and changed,
évidemment nous conservons nos ancêtres les Gaulois,
of course we will maintain our Gaelic ancestors.
mais nous devons rappeler toute la partie arabe,
But we must remember and remind of the Arab part,
comme la partie noire,
as well as the Black African,
l'histoire de l'esclavage,
history of slavery,
parce que ça fait partie de l'histoire de France,
because it is part of French history.
et donc ça fait partie du roman national.
And of course, it is part of the national novel.
Et je dirais qu'actuellement, nous sommes entrés dans le centenaire de la Révolution, de la Grande Guerre.
We are now celebrating the centennial of the Great War.
Et justement, c'est le premier épisode où tous les éléments de la population française actuelle
And it's the first episode in which all the elements of the current French population
est présent.
Are present.
Vous avez des dizaines de milliers de soldats arabes et musulmans dans l'armée française.
You have thousands of Arab and Muslim soldiers in the French army.
Vous avez des travailleurs chinois.
Chinois?
Oui, oui.
You have Chinese workers.
Vietnamiens.
Vietnamese.
Vous avez évidemment des troupes noires d'Afrique noire.
And you have troops, the black troops from
Black Africa,
Black Africa,
mais aussi des Caraïbes.
but from the Caribbean as well.
Donc, le roman national doit prendre en compte tous ces éléments.
So therefore, the national novel must take into account all these elements.
Narratives, peut-être plutôt que novel.
Narrative,
Yeah.
narrative, okay. Yes.
Okay, next question.
Yes. Former professor, he might still be a professor, Edward Litvak, has said that in the war in Syria, the rebels opposing Assad have become so infiltrated and become so dependent on Al-Qaeda and other Islamicists from across the Arab world that from the American point of view and from our interests, if that had not occurred, we would want Assad to fall. But since that is not the case, in his view, in our interests would be for both of them to just keep fighting each other until basically they came to a stalemate and whatever. Neither side is in our interest to succeed. First of all, I'm asking Professor if he thinks that in fact is the case. Has the rebels become infiltrated by Islamicists, Al-Qaeda, and what does he think is the likely outcome of the civil war in Syria?
Plusieurs réponses.
Many answers.
La première, c'est que c'est plutôt le sujet de la conférence de demain à l'Alliance française.
The first one being that this is more the subject of today's conference.
Tomorrow. Yes.
Tomorrow, I'm sorry, at the Alliance Française.
La seconde, c'est ce que l'on a fait l'été dernier en n'intervenant pas en Syrie.
What we did last summer by not intervening in Syria
C'était l'autorisation de tuer
was meant authorizing killings
si on n'utilise pas d'armes chimiques.
as long as one does not use chemical weapons.
Vous pouvez voir les dégâts
One can see the damage caused
par 700 000 réfugiés palestiniens
with the 700,000 Palestinian refugees
en 1948.
in 1948.
Imaginez les dégâts que vont représenter 5 à 10 millions de réfugiés syriens.
So one can only imagine what kind of damage will be caused by 5 to 10 million Syrian refugees
pour le demi-siècle à venir.
for the next half century.
Well, thank you. And I actually have a question now from Minneapolis that takes us back in time to Napoleon III. The question is, did Napoleon III think that Islamists would assimilate with a Christian country?
Napoléon III pensait qu'il serait l'empereur des Français,
Napoleon III thought he would be the emperor of the French,
mais le roi des Arabes.
but the king of the Arabs.
Very nice, yeah.
Donc, il pensait même que l'Algérie pouvait devenir le domaine personnel
He even thought that Algeria can become the personal domain
de l'empereur.
of the emperor.
Et c'est lui, son but était de donner la nationalité française à la totalité des musulmans en Algérie.
He intended on giving French citizenship to all of the Muslims of Algeria,
Mais cela a échoué.
but it failed.
Thank you. Then we have another question from the Chicago audience.
So the period of Franco-Arab policy you're talking about started with Napoleon, continuing to the present day. And I was curious how Franco-Arab policy changed as the Ottoman Empire declined in strength and eventually collapsed.
Oui, évidemment, il y a beaucoup de changements en fonction des évolutions politiques.
There are many changes that occur as a result of political changes.
En fait, le mot arabe est utilisé de Napoléon Ier jusqu'à Napoléon III.
The word Arab is used from Napoleon I to Napoleon III,
Tandis que sous la Troisième République, on utilise plus la référence à l'islam.
while under the Third Republic, it is more referred to as, or the reference to Islam is more prominent.
Le mot essentiel sous la Troisième République est le mot politique musulmane de la France.
So during the Third Republic, the most prominent term is the Muslim policy
Muslim Policy of France.
of France.
Et ce n'est qu'à partir des années 1930
And it is not until the 1930s
que le mot arabe revient
that the word Arab comes back
dans les textes politiques français.
in the French political discourse.
Okay, then I have another interesting question actually from Kansas City. So you've talked about the relationship between the French and the Christians in the Arab world. This question actually refers to the relationship between France and the Jews, and it says, can you say a few words about the relationship between France and the Jews in the Arab world or the Levant?
C'est évidemment un aspect important.
It is definitely an important aspect.
C'est en 1860 que les Juifs français
It is in 1860 that the French Jews
ont créé l'Alliance israélite universelle,
created the Jewish Universal Alliance,
qui est l'équivalent des missions catholiques,
which was the equivalent of the Catholic missions,
et qui ont ouvert des écoles pour les Juifs dans tout le monde arabe.
and which opened Jewish schools throughout the Arab world.
Et l'Alliance était évidemment protégée par la politique française.
And the alliance was under the protection of the French, under this French policy.
Et par exemple au Maroc, toute la population juive était envoyée dans les écoles de l'Alliance française, dans l'Alliance israélite.
For example, in Morocco, all Jewish children were sent to schools run by this Jewish alliance.
Par ailleurs, en Algérie, les Juifs ont reçu en 1870 la nationalité française.
In Algeria, in 1870, 1871, the French Jews, the Algerian Jews received French citizenship.
Et ensuite, pratiquement, à la moment de la décolonisation,
And then later on, at the time of decolonization,
tous les Juifs d'Afrique du Nord qui ont souhaité venir en France ont été reçus en France et ont reçu la nationalité française.
all the Jews of North Africa who wished to emigrate to France were allowed to do so, and they received French citizenship.
Ce qui fait que la population juive de France a plus que doublé après 1960.
So therefore, the Jewish population of France more than doubled after 1960.
Thank you. Any more questions from the Chicago audience? Yes.
Bonjour. Tout d'abord, merci pour votre cours qui était très intéressant. I will ask the question in English so that everybody understands. I was wondering, we talk about the politic of assimilation in Algeria, but was there ever a real will of assimilation? As you say, Napoleon III wanted to be the king of Arabs. And in the administration that was established in Algeria, it was always the French who had the important administrative posts, jobs. So, was there really a politic of assimilation? The Algerians didn't all receive the French citizenship. And I don't know, there is strong doubts about a real assimilation process in Algeria.
Vous avez parfaitement raison.
You are absolutely correct.
La question est de comprendre qu'à la fois l'Algérie
The question is about understanding that Algeria,
devenue une part du territoire national,
became a part of the national territory,
mais qu'en même temps, la population arabe d'Algérie
but at the same time, the Arab population of Algeria
n'a pas reçu la totalité des droits politiques.
did not receive the totality of political rights.
Et la question était
And the question was
que la population musulmane
that the Muslim population
avait conservé la loi musulmane
had kept the Islamic law
que les Français ont par ailleurs codifié.
that the French codified.
Donc, il y avait deux régimes juridiques pour les populations.
So there were two legal systems for the population.
Il y avait la loi française, le Code civil,
The French law, known as the Civil Code,
et la loi islamique.
and the Islamic law.
Et finalement, la révolution la plus extraordinaire
And at the end, the most extraordinary revolution
a été totalement silencieuse.
was absolutely silent.
C'est en 1962,
It was in 1962
quand l'Algérie est devenue indépendante.
when Algeria became independent.
La loi islamique a été supprimée du Code français.
The Islamic law was taken out of the French law.
Aussi, d'un seul coup,
And therefore, all at once,
des centaines de milliers de musulmans
hundreds of thousands of Muslims
en France
in France
sont passés sur le Code civil.
were then governed by the Civil Code.
Et personne ne s'en est aperçu à ce moment-là.
And no one even noticed at the time.
Et ce qui fait que
And therefore,
en Algérie, il y avait peu de mariages mixtes.
in Algeria, there were few interracial marriages
À cause de la différence de régime juridique.
because of the difference between the two legal codes, legal systems.
Et qu'après 1962,
And after 1962,
le nombre de mariages entre musulmans et non-musulmans est devenu extrêmement important dans la société française.
The number of marriages between Muslims and Christians, you know,
No Muslims.
and non-Muslims. You're right. I'm sorry, and non-Muslims soared.
Okay, thank you. Then we have another question from Chicago.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I have a question about domestic policy in France. I lived for 2 years in France, in Menton. And then that was when the Tunisian Revolution happened. And then a lot of Tunisians tried to come into France via Menton. And I noticed that there was an increase in perhaps xenophobia in the area, which allowed Marine Le Pen to get 20% of the vote. So I was wondering whether you think that the Arab Spring has, and the currently unfolding events in Syria has an impact on domestic politics in France. Thank you.
Ce n'est pas le problème de la seule France.
It is not only France's problem.
C'est le problème de la totalité de l'Europe.
It's a problem that concerns the entirety of the whole of Europe.
D'un côté, nous avons le même problème que les États-Unis par rapport au Mexique.
On the one hand, we have the same problem in France that we do in the United States.
In Europe.
In Europe, in regards to Mexico, the relationship between the United States and Mexico.
Le monde arabe, la Méditerranée, c'est comme le Rio Grande.
Oh, the Mediterranean is like the Rio Grande.
Et vous avez énormément d'immigrants clandestins.
So you have a large number of clandestine immigrants.
Et vous avez, pour des raisons complexes,
And you have, for complex reasons,
entre autres les questions du terrorisme,
amongst them the issue of terrorism,
des vagues d'islamophobie,
waves of Islamophobia,
pas seulement en France,
not just in France,
mais sur l'ensemble de l'Europe.
but throughout Europe.
Et c'est un sujet difficile,
And it's a difficult subject.
mais en même temps, dans la société française d'aujourd'hui,
But at the same time, in today's French society,
vous avez de plus en plus de gens d'origine arabe et musulmane
you have more and more people of Arab and Muslim origin
dans les classes moyennes.
in
Middle
the
classes.
French middle class.
Et ça, c'est un changement important.
And that is a very important change.
Mais je pense que si on compare aux États-Unis,
But I think that if we compare to the United States,
c'est un peu la même relation que vous avez avec les Latinos.
is a similar relationship that the US has with Latinos.
Okay, thank you. Next question.
Bonjour, merci pour votre conférence. My question was, to which extent, if any, is French culture related to the Pan-Arabic movement, either by the ideas, by the law, or by any type of political support? Thank you.
Au 19e siècle?
In the 20th century.
19th century?
Yeah.
Non.
Non, vous avez dit le 20e?
20th.
C'est évident qu'une bonne partie du monde arabe est bilingue avec le français.
It is quite obvious that a large part of the world is bilingual with French.
Toute l'Afrique du Nord,
All of North Africa,
une partie du Levant.
part of the Levant.
C'est la France qui a construit le système éducatif en Égypte.
France built the educational system in Egypt.
Ce sont les juristes français qui ont aidé à la mise en place des codes de loi dans la plus grande partie des pays arabes.
And French jurists helped set up the penal code of many of the Arab countries.
Aujourd'hui, cela s'efface lentement
Today, it is slowly dissipating
parce que l'anglais prend de plus en plus la place
because English is gaining ground.
du français.
And is replacing or infringing on the part that has been occupied by French.
Mais la relation est toujours très forte entre l'Afrique du Nord et la France.
But the relationship between North Africa and France is still very strong.
Parce que nous avons peut-être 2 millions de Français d'origine nord-africaine en France.
Because we have perhaps 2 million people of North African origin in France.
Et qu'ils vont souvent passer les vacances dans le pays d'origine.
And that they often go back to their country of origin for their holidays.
Et comme ils ne parlent plus l'arabe,
And since they no longer speak Arabic,
ils parlent le français avec leurs cousins.
they speak French to their cousins.
Okay, I saw one more question over there.
Related to the community of North Africans and other immigrants in France today, do the French public distinguish between those who are there for education versus those who come to immigrate fleeing something? And how does the new middle class of immigrants impact the view of traditional French society on Arabs, Muslims, and Africans in general?
C'est une question difficile.
It's a difficult question.
Officiellement, l'immigration s'est arrêtée dans les années 1970.
Officially, immigration ended in the 1970s.
Mais en fait, elle continue.
But in reality, it continues.
L'immigration la plus récente
The most recent immigration
est une immigration plus éduquée.
is a more educated immigration.
Les immigrants qui étaient venus dans la première partie du XXe siècle
The immigrants who had come in the first half of the 20th century
étaient des pauvres paysans analphabètes.
were poor, uneducated people from the country,
Tandis que les immigrants d'aujourd'hui
while today's immigrants
en général fait des études supérieures.
usually have a higher education, meaning college and above.
Donc cela change évidemment les choses. On trouve maintenant, on n'a pas en raison de la Seconde Guerre mondiale
Because of the Second World War
et de l'occupation nazie,
and the Nazi occupation,
il est interdit en France
it is forbidden in France
de faire des statistiques ethniques et religieuses.
to have ethnic and religious statistics.
Parce que c'est comme ça que les Juifs de France ont été persécutés.
Because that is what caused the persecution of the Jews of France.
Donc nous n'avons pas de données chiffrées exactes.
So therefore we don't have any data, in numeric data that is exact.
Et nous ne pouvons avoir que des impressions.
So therefore we can only have, be under the impression of.
Alors ce que l'on voit, c'est malgré tout un mélange progressif des Arabes entre eux.
What we see is a progressive mix, an ongoing mix between Arabs, amongst Arabs.
Parce qu'au début, les Tunisiens étaient différents des Algériens, des Marocains, des Libanais, des Égyptiens.
Because at first, Tunisians were different from Algerians, and Algerians from Lebanese, and Lebanese from Syrians, and etc., etc.
Alors qu'aujourd'hui, il commence à apparaître
While today there's the appearance
une identité arabe,
of an Arab identity.
Parce que des Algériens épousent des Libanais.
Because Algerians are marrying Lebanese.
Mais nous ne pouvons pas avoir de statistiques.
But we cannot get a hold on statistics.
Et on en voit aussi dans beaucoup de professions techniques.
And we see more and more Arabs in professions that require technical knowledge.
Chez les enseignants, par exemple.
In the education system.
Mais encore une fois, ce n'est pas possible de faire des statistiques.
But again, we cannot have any statistics.
On regarde simplement les noms et on pense que.
So one usually looks at a name and then, develops his or her thought on the subject.
Well, that's really interesting with the statistics. Do you know by any chance whether it's the same in Germany at all or other European countries? I'm just curious here.
Je ne sais pas, mais ça a été ma plus grande surprise avec les États-Unis.
Okay.
Monsieur Laurence does not know about the rest of Europe, but he was quite surprised with the United States.
Il y a 10 ans, on m'a demandé pour Social Science Research Council, SSRC, de faire un census.
So about 10 years ago, I was asked to establish a census.
Des Arabes des gens spécialistes du monde arabe en France.
Of Arab or specialists in France of the Arab world.
Et nous avons répondu qu'il était impossible de donner une statistique ethnique.
And I answered that it was impossible to give an ethnic-based statistics.
Sur le sujet, alors que pour les Américains,
while for Americans,
ils avaient toutes les statistiques, y compris le nombre d'Amérindiens.
The Americans had all the statistics, including the number of native Indians.
Et dans le champ, c'est-à-dire il n'y en avait aucun.
In the field, which is to say there were none.
Yeah, that's certainly a big difference. Absolutely, I would completely agree on that. Well, we have one more question from the Chicago audience.
Yeah, thank you for your illuminating talk. If I may conclude with a more open-ended question, you had made the rather tongue-in-cheek remark that de Gaulle had made a virtue of the inevitable and had turned it into French policy. I'd like to ask what, if anything, is inevitable about Franco-Arab relations today, and whether the French have made it a matter of policy yet. Thank you.
Je ne sais pas si je peux répondre à votre question.
I don't know if I can answer your question.
Mais je pense qu'au XXIe siècle,
But I believe that in the 21st century,
il y aura deux mondes.
there will be two worlds.
Il y aura le monde composé de l'ancienne Europe et de l'Amérique du Nord.
The world made up of the old Europe and North America,
qui sera le carrefour de toutes les populations du monde.
which will be the intersecting point of all the populations from all over the world.
À cause des diasporas.
Because of the various diasporas.
Et puis les pays qui seront ethniquement homogènes.
And the countries which will be ethnically homogeneous.
Mais qui auront une relation pauvre avec le reste du monde.
But that will have a poor relationship with the rest of the world.
En raison de l'absence de diaspora.
Because of the absence of diaspora.
Et là, je crois qu'entre l'Europe et l'Amérique du Nord, il y a vraiment une similarité.
And in that regard, I think that there's a strong similarity between the United States and Europe.
North America.
North America, pardon me, and Europe.
That's certainly a very interesting outlook here. Any more questions? Okay.
Merci beaucoup. So I have a question that's more specifically between the la relation Marocco-française, so the Moroccan-French, Franco-Moroccan relation, and especially in light of the recent drama that ensued after Javier Bardem's statement about what happened, what quote-unquote happened in the United States was supposed to be with, a conversation he supposedly had with the French ambassador in Washington, but it was actually the French delegate at the United Nations, and the ensuing very inappropriate statement that was made, and how the French government reacted to that, and how Moroccans perceived French influence at that point in time, at a time where most Moroccans living in bigger cities still use the French education system throughout the lycée, and then go on to pursue their studies in France. Where France still has a lot of influence, and virtually the only country with a monarchy that has not gone through the Arab Spring in North Africa. So I just wanted to hear about your perspective on, on that relationship.
Pour la politique française,
For the French policy,
on a toujours un problème d'équilibre entre l'Algérie et le Maroc.
we always have the issue of balance between Algeria and Morocco.
Puisque à chaque fois qu'on se rapproche de l'un, l'autre n'est pas content.
Because every time we get closer to one, the other is unhappy.
Et le fait savoir.
And makes it known.
Par ailleurs, la monarchie marocaine
On the other hand, the Moroccan monarchy
est spécialiste des relations publiques.
is a specialist in public relations.
En particulier à destination de la classe politique française.
Particularly when it pertains to the French political elite.
Qui passe des vacances gratuites.
Which gets to spend holidays for free.
In Morocco.
In Morocco.
Any more questions from Chicago audience? If not, I have one from Kansas City that goes back to something quite different, actually, on trade routes. And I'm not 100% sure whether it's to which period this is referring to. I'll just read you the question. Was there a role played in trying to establish trade routes with the Orient from the Levant by France with regards to the Arab world?
Bon, recommencer la question.
Okay. Was there a role played in trying to establish trade routes? So what's the role of trade routes with the Orient and the Levant? The role played by, did France actually had any specific interest with the trade routes coming from these regions?
L'un des projets de Bonaparte en Égypte
One of Bonaparte's projects in Egypt
était le percement du canal de Suez.
Was the percement.
Digging.
The digging, yes, thank you. The digging of the Suez Canal.
Qui finalement a été fait dans les années 1860.
Which was finally happened in the 1860s.
Et c'était une compagnie française qui a administré le canal de Suez.
And a French company managed the canal.
Jusqu'en 1956.
Until 1956.
Et dans le système colonial français,
And in the French colonial system,
le canal de Suez
the Suez Canal
était indispensable pour communiquer avec l'Indochine française.
Was indispensable in communicating with French Indochina.
Donc c'était quelque chose de vital.
So it was vital.
Mais c'est l'Angleterre qui a occupé l'Égypte et pas la France.
However, Great Britain ended up occupying Egypt and not France.
Ce qui est une autre histoire.
But that's another story.
Yeah, certainly very interesting historical turn here. I would like you now to join us for more discussions at the reception, which is just behind you in the end of the hall. Thank you very much, and this has been a very interesting discussion.
Monsieur David,
Écoutez, oui, vous avez été gentil et surtout